Hey, hockey fans, and welcome back to another edition of Puck My Life. Tonight, I am joined with Cody. How you doing, bud?
Doing great, doing great. Training camps should be starting soon, and then I was just reading over in Europe, Sweden specifically, their season's getting very close to starting, which will be speaking of Sweden, that's our topic tonight.
Yes. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the Global Series. I'm really excited to get into this one. This one has been a long time coming. A lot of people have been wanting to know about what this trip was like. I did go into some more detail when I was on the Glass Bones Hockey Podcast. I did actually a pre-show where we talked about it, kind of our expectations and what we thought it was going to be like going into the Global Series. And then I actually had a recap show with those guys. So go over and check out Glass Bones Hockey Podcast. Matt and Kyle, some great guys over there. But tonight, we're going to talk about our Global Series experience in Sweden, which, to be perfectly honest, when this first came across my feed, like it was about the same time last year. And I remember specifically having the conversation with Cody where it's like, hey, is this something that we should actually like look into doing? It got to the point where we were starting to kind of build some momentum and starting to go some different places and being a little more gutsy with the trips. And it's like, why not just like really go for it? So before we get started, Cody, what was your kind of like initial thoughts when you and I had that conversation a little over a year ago and we talked about this possibility of going to the Global Series?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where you asked me, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. And it's one of those things where like, that'd be cool, but are we actually gonna do it? And then, you know, it was one of those things. I think we kind of just kept talking about it, and then nobody was really saying no. And then we kind of just kept
Yeah.
talking about it, and then I still remember the moment I bought my plane ticket. I'm like, wow, this is actually happening. I'm actually going to Sweden.
Yep. Yeah. The reality finally set in when you did that. I know it did for me when I got my ticket. So yeah, this was something unexpected. I mean, we kind of I personally felt when we started this journey that eventually we were going to get overseas, but I didn't think it would be this soon and for this type of trip that we were going on. And you're
Hmm.
going to hear a lot about this entire trip over the next few shows that we do. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Global Series, game 1 and game 4 of that Global Series. And then in between those two Global Series games, we did head to Vostervik and watch a game. And then we did head to Jönköping, right? Am I saying that right? I know we've really
Yes,
struggled with
yeah,
something.
I
Okay.
think so. Yon Joping, I believe is correct. Yeah.
Jönköping. Okay. So I'm sure in the comments people are going to get me for that. But anyway, so we went to Jönköping and watched HV Hotvat, I think is what it was. Hotvat something.
Hove,
Hove. Yes. HV
Hove
71.
71.
Okay,
Yeah.
HV 71. So we went to those two games in between, and this whole trip was, to me, it was everything that we're looking for in a hockey trip, and we definitely found it. So let's get started with tonight. We're talking about the Global Series in Stockholm, Sweden at Avinci Arena. So this is just, I think this is, let's see, yeah, this is just after the game started,
Hmm.
and yeah, this is like, I wasn't really sure what to expect going overseas, like how the arenas were set up for hockey. As you can see there is a lot of like extra space to where like it's kind of like the lower part where the ice is kind of rounded, and then you don't have people like right up on the glass, which I thought was very interesting. Like there wasn't really any like all the way around. So Cody, what were your thoughts when we walked into the arena and you saw it laid out like this, where it's like, yeah, you can't get seats up on the glass for this?
Well, the reason for that is because in North America we play on a and a little bit shorter sheet of ice than they do in international and European hockey.
Yep, that's true.
So, because they'll play some derby games for the national leagues here for Swedish teams, and so when they do that, they would actually fill up that entire kind of floor space you see there. So
Okay.
I imagine for those kind of games, there would be seats right up against the glass. But this was an NHL regular season game, so they had to play it with the standard NHL ice. So
Mhm.
that's why it is a little bit smaller there. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think we had walked down somewhat close to there a few times, and it is weird being at the very end, but still being a decent amount away from the ice. Like there's no glass bangers at this game.
No, no, and that was unfortunate, especially with the teams that we had show up to this. So, and the other thing too that I've noticed in some of the research that we did prior to going on this experience was that it seems like Avinci Arena it is actually named after the DJ who passed away a few years ago.
Mhm.
But it does look like its primary use, from what I was seeing online, a lot of the pre-pictures was it is a very good concert venue, especially
Mhm.
with this roof. I'm sure the acoustics are amazing. We didn't have the opportunity to go there for a concert, but if anybody has, let us know in the comments on that. But yeah, you can definitely tell with the rigging and everything up there that this is definitely a more of a concert venue, but I still think that it worked well for hosting an NHL game.
I think I saw pictures of a handball, like the World Handball Championships going on there, and it was kind of a cool
Really?
setup. Yeah, I think it's like their national arena, so they use it
Hmm.
for all sorts of things: figure skating, handball, concerts. I mean, anything that can fit on that floor, I think they've done.
Definitely a multi-purpose facility, that's for sure. So, all right. So first thing, parking. So, we'd never been to Sweden before. Me and Cody have both traveled outside of the U.S. We've both been to Europe before. We've never been to Sweden, and we weren't really 100% sure what to expect going into a Swedish town, but it wasn't that bad. Like it was way better than I thought, and I actually preferred it over some of the US cities that we've gone to. Like the people on the expressways were not driving like maniacs. We weren't getting cut off all the time. Like it was just a nice steady flow. People were patient with each other, and not everybody was in a rush, which was great. We were in a little bit of a rush because our flight
Oh
was
yeah,
delayed. My flight was delayed coming into Sweden. So Cody actually got in a day before. With him living in Arizona, there was all that for him getting over. Then me getting over, it was the somebody had clogged the toilet on the plane, and it made us 45 minutes late getting into Paris. And then the gate that we went to wasn't finished. So they had to take us down this ramp, and it was pouring rain, and they had to put us in these buses and then cart us all the way across the airport to get to the new terminal. Then we had to go through security, and then we got there late. And there was a couple other people from Detroit that were going to the Global Series game, and they got bumped back too. So we had to wait like 4 hours for the plane to leave, go to Stockholm, come back, deboard, get cleaned up, and then we got back on. So I mean, they
I
did
still
give us,
remember that. Yeah, because
yeah,
I had
that was
done a
rough.
very similar itinerary to you the day before, where got a flight into Paris and then had a layover there before boarding the Air France flight to Stockholm,
Yep.
and all my stuff went without a hitch. It all went according to plan, and I still, with that layover in Paris, made it to my plane 2 minutes before they closed the door to the plane, and I had the
Wow.
very first gate in the terminal. And so as soon as you guys, I remember texting you and you told me your flight out of Detroit had gotten delayed 45 minutes.
Yep.
I didn't have the heart to tell you at the time. But I'm like, there is zero chance they make that flight out of Paris, just because I'm like, everything went perfectly for me and I made it with 2 minutes to spare. So I'm like, if
Yeah.
they got, which remind me if I'm wrong, somebody had clogged the toilet on the flight before yours and they,
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, the maintenance guys in the security greenish, orange, yellowish, whatever colored vests were frantically going through the plane because we were getting late. And Charles de Gaulle is a nightmare airport to get through and get around to begin with. So
avoid it.
yeah, avoid it if possible. I mean, we avoided it on the way back. So we from Sweden coming back, we went from Stockholm to Amsterdam and then back. We didn't have any problems with the return flight, but
I had a
getting
6 hour
there,
delay at De Gaulle on the way back. So
yeah. So it ended up working out. I mean, because I think we landed in what we have like an hour, hour 15 maybe to get from the airport to Avinci Arena.
Yeah, I think you guys. What did you guys landed at about 5? I think in the airport's about 25-minute drive north of the city.
Yeah.
We rented a car. We should add. So I had picked up the rental car the day before. As soon as you guys landed, I hightailed it up to the airport. Picked you guys up. We hightailed it right downtown and got there right around door opening time. So it was frantic, but we made it work.
Yeah, yeah, we did make it work. So, and there wasn't really like when it comes to some of that stuff, you can't really plan too much for that unless you kind of do what you did and went a day before and ensured that you got there. But I mean, we left Detroit at like 6 o'clock in the evening, and then I'm like trying to get some sleep in Charles de Gaulle, and then we get on that short flight, and it was hard to even sleep on that little flight. And then we land, then we go straight to thing, and I, needless to say, I crashed pretty hard that night, but then once I got a full night's sleep, I was like ready to go, and it was go, go, go the rest of the time. But getting back to the point that we had here about parking,
Parking.
yeah, so the parking was really easy. There was a nice lot behind Avinci Arena. If you see those red, like, rooftops in the background there's a lot that was right there that we parked in. And I think it was just we paid through the app, and so it was really simple. We just hopped over the street, and we were right there at Da Vinci. So it was pretty easy. Like it wasn't that bad. I think a lot of people took some public transit in, so that helped with some of the parking. And as you can see there is other lots in the area, so it wasn't really that bad. So if you do feel like, oh, it's gonna be so many people down there for it, it wasn't that bad. Just go ahead and take your rental car or whatever down and check it out. It wasn't that bad at all. All right, so probably wondering, like, man, Tyler, like, I'd love to go to something like this, but the tickets got to be expensive, and they were to some degree. And so, as you can see here, for the one that's Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Minnesota Wild, that was $126.28 for that one. So that wasn't too bad. I mean, we were in a good section. We had great seats, and that was the last game of the Global
Mhm.
Series. And then the one there on the left is the for game one. And as you can see there, it was 3,580 krona, which was about $358. Basically, it's whatever you see, it's 10% of that. I'm not exactly sure what the exchange rate is now. I'm sure it's pretty similar to what it is for here, but just kind of showing you too that even when you order some of this stuff, like I ordered through the NHL website, and I got this email, and part of it was in Swedish. And then Cody, where did you order the tickets for Game 4?
I got them through Vivid.
Okay.
So I think that's an important distinction to kind of make too, which we don't always get this opportunity with games we go to,
Mm-hmm.
is the Red Wings versus Ottawa. We bought those tickets. So this game was in mid-November. You had to have bought those tickets in late September, I would think. We bought those pretty far ahead of time, and then the Toronto versus Minnesota game, we weren't sure if we were going to go to that one. It was kind of, we decided that morning. We're like, yeah, let's go to this game. I think it was, we're trying to decide if we wanted to go to a women's game in Linköping or if we wanted to head back to Stockholm. Just kind of be done with the driving for the trip and then enjoy the final game of the Global Series. And so ultimately we did that. We bought 2 tickets the morning of. So I think that's, I'm trying to think if, because these would be one section lower than what we
Mm-hmm.
got for the Detroit and Ottawa game, and I
Yeah,
think
we
they
were
ended up
up
being a
there
little
for
bit
that other one.
cheaper.
Yeah.
But you'll find out later. It worked out.
Yeah, and just the date on this 6/7 of 23 is
Okay.
the when that email came through. So
Oh wow.
I don't know. Like looking back at it, would you think that it would have been better just to wait and see? But I think that was. I definitely think the Red Wings games were fetching a premium, especially since they did have. I mean, they all had Swedish players, but I think some of the more popular, like Lucas Raymond's very popular in Sweden. So I
Hmm.
think that kind of drove, and it's the Red Wings, and especially like the ones with the. I mean, this one with Toronto. I mean, it wasn't really bad, but I just felt like the two Red Wings ones did fetch a little bit more of a premium when you looked at the whole breakdown of the different days and how much the prices of tickets were going for.
Yeah, so I think maybe if you're a Stockholm local, you could hang on and maybe wait to buy tickets, see if people drop out last minute. If somebody took a large dump on their plane and they weren't able to make it in time for the game, they have to quickly offload their tickets. Maybe you can take advantage of that. But for our case, where we're traveling, my case, across the entire U.S. and across the Atlantic Ocean to get to this game. I want the security of having that ticket ahead of time. Where the second Global Series game we went to, the final one of the series, we had some flexibility, and so we were able to take advantage of that. So I think there's two different approaches, obviously, that come into it, and I think we made the right choice in both of these. Having the security of knowing we're going to the Global Series, buying in advance, for as far as we had to travel, I think was worth it.
Yeah, that's a really good point because we did have those options stopping in was it Linkoping in
Hmm.
at Saab Arena, and then there was that other team that we were looking. It was like
Oh,
Wings
Orlando,
HC.
Orlando
Yeah,
Wings. Yeah,
yep,
they're in
Orlando
the
Wings,
third or fourth tier.
which would have been up by the airport that we were our hotel was by and stuff. So that would have been nice. But it's like we realized that we had a lot more time that day because this game, as you can see there, the Maple Leafs game was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but the first game was at like 8 o'clock or something like that. So
Hmm.
it definitely worked out to where we had some stuff going on. Then we went to a bar afterwards and went bowling and just had a good time, just kind of
Oh yeah,
unwound
Boston
before
themed pub in Stockholm was
that.
interesting.
That was interesting. Yeah, the Boston is everything Boston. It was something you would not expect on the north end of Stockholm, but it was cool. Yeah, and just to kind of show you too here, as far as like tickets go, like this is a pretty big arena, and like we were up in the upper bowl for the first game, and there's a ton of section. I mean, it's not really too sharp angles. Like it was a little bit uncomfortable right at first, but it kind of not nearly as bad as the Canadian Tire Center.
Oh
Like, I still
gosh,
think for me that's still the worst.
probably yeah.
Yep. And then, do you remember what happened? So I
Yeah, was it? I
maybe
think
you
there
could tell
was.
more of the story on this picture and why I'm holding a ticket stub when we bought these tickets online.
Yeah, so we were in section or in like section C, the very top of the arena. And then I think, second period we were walking around and we went to go, kind of the B section, which is in the middle, pretty equivalent to I would say the lower bowl at most arenas. There's an A, which is like the very, very bottom. But I would say A and B combined is the equivalent of lower bowl at most North American arenas that I've been to. So we were kind of standing at the top of the B section. Right at center ice. It's actually where we got to see Lucas Raymond score a goal, which was really cool. Seeing Lucas
Yeah.
Raymond score a goal for the Red Wings, in his home country, I thought was really cool. So we were sitting there watching that, and then Usher came up to us and like, it was like, "Oh, where are you guys sitting?" And here I am thinking like, "Oh man, we got caught." Like, okay, I get it. We'll leave. We'll leave. Sorry. We should. These our tickets aren't here. I'm like, "Oh, we're up in C." Expecting to get the boot. Then he's like, "How many of you are there?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's three of us." And so then he just hands me three tickets. He's like, "Enjoy your seats over here," which was in the press section actually.
Yep.
So they is interesting. I guess that arena doesn't actually have like a traditional press section, like most arenas here do, where they're up top and they have desks and tables and their own buffet and all that. So they just had kind of a makeshift press section. Um, and so we were kind of sitting right there. I was looking over there and I saw some of my favorite Red Wings beat writers. Shout out to Max Boltman.
Mhm.
So I thought that was kind of cool. And there were some nice seats. So uh,
Yeah.
you know, people show kindness all the time. You just have to be ready to receive it.
Yeah. That was really cool, and I was not expecting that. And we had more stuff like this happen throughout the trip, so we'll be going over some more of that later from the other games. So next up is the merch, and a lot of merch there was. So one thing that we were all like worried about, like when we were getting there, like man, are they going to have pucks left? Because we know that there's a lot of avid puck collectors out there, and so we were super adamant to make sure we got there as soon as we could. And we weren't sure how they were going to handle things with, like, you have the 4 different teams and they're playing on off nights. So what they did was they actually had to end up changing out the merch. So you can see this is from night 1. So they did have their regular Global Series merch. This was actually at the merch table as soon as you walked into Avinci Arena from the outside where I took that picture. And you have like the Senators gear, and then you also had some of the Red Wing stuff, and then they had these T-shirts and hoodies there in the middle that were for the matchup, which I thought was really cool. But you can easily get sucked into spending a ton of money because those T-shirts alone were 45 US. So I mean, yeah, it's the thing is like, people say, "Oh, you're only going to be there once or whatever." Well, I'm not planning on just going once, but the thing is like I was there, it's Puck My Life, guys. So we're there for the pucks. Obviously, some of the other stuff we do get along the way. We've bought jerseys, we bought this, we bought that. But I wasn't really too interested in some of the other stuff. As far as the merch went, I did get some of the sticks, and then I just got the pucks for this event. And they did have some of this Fanatics. So this is kind of when Fanatics was kind of starting to work its way in, and Adidas was starting to kind of work its way out. And you can see here they had the Lucas Raymond autograph rookie card and a few other things. And like I said before, 10% of this is what we pay. So SEK, the Krona, so it would have been $87 US. And so each night they had different merch from some of the different teams because like I said, that night it was Red Wings versus Senators, and you can see the other card there of some of the Senators stuff. So that was definitely interesting. And this is something that we've seen at a few different places. So they had this at the Memorial Cup, they had this at the draft, and this is where you can get the personalized card done, which I had one done, Cody had one done. I've had this done at a few different places. So this is a really cool experience to have this. I was glad that Upper Deck was able to be there for that. And then what you guys are waiting for, the pucks. And yep, there you go, Cody. So yeah, we'll get you in frame here. But do you want to kind of talk about the pucks a little bit and what we didn't get a chance to get, but then you ended up getting later?
Yeah, so they had obviously, we were able to get these matchup pucks. They called these the dueling pucks? Dual pucks, I think, is what they called them over there,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of funny. But as many of you may know, with Tyler and I, there's one type of puck we always like to go for, which is the official game puck.
Yes,
Which
sir.
unfortunately they did not have these available for sale there. Much to our chagrin. I am a frequent viewer of NHL auctions, and I was like a hawk on that website after I got back. And after a little bit of waiting, they did post a lot of stuff from the NHL Global Series. And I don't, it's in a case at my office. That's how important it is to me. But I was able to get a game used puck from this game, the Red Wings versus Ottawa game. I think it came out to about $50 shipped, for a game used puck isn't too bad. Yep, they look just like that. And we have seen some of these other ones floating around online, official game pucks from the Stockholm Global Series from 2023. I was just telling Tyler before we got on, my theory, I don't know how much water it holds, but my theory is that the NHL ordered a bunch of these official game pucks for the Global Series, and then for whatever reason, you know, delivery delays, supply chain issues, who knows, they weren't able to get them to Stockholm for the actual event. And so they just got released to wholesalers, different areas, because it seems like online's been flooded with them.
Yeah.
So interesting thing there. And then, I did end up picking up some of the other merch I bought, that kind of the gray T-shirt that they had there. Then I bought a mini stick. And then I was a little nervous if that mini stick was going to be able to make it through my carry-on on the way back in
Oh,
Stockholm. They
yep.
pulled it out, they looked at it, and then they gave me a smile and let me take it. So I was happy about that. I was afraid it was going to have to stay behind in Sweden.
Yeah, that would have been a shame. But I mean, going through the airport and stuff like that, a bunch of people were bringing stuff in, and they knew that was in town. So I don't know if they would have had a problem with it any other time other than that, but we were able to get through. And here's something else that they had too. They had like a booth set up with some vendors came in and did like some autograph cards and some patch cards. We'll show a little clip from that.
Ja, det får du ingen kädolös för.
Yeah,
Now let me
definitely
ask
some
you, Tyler.
expensive
When
stuff.
when you've had pucks and you've brought them, like, 'cause I know you've flown out to many games out here with me, or I've flown out
Yeah,
there, different areas. Have you ever had a puck in your carry-on, or in my case, it's like a half dozen pucks or more just from one weekend trip?
yeah.
Had them through your carry-on. You're going through TSA, and it seems I'm just used to it at this point. I've got pucks in my carry-on, and then I see my bag go through the conveyor belt. It stops. It's coming through, and then it boop off to the side, and then I got to go up there, stand there while the TSA rips through my bag. They grab the pucks, and then they take the Q-tip thing on them. And then it comes back negative, and they send me on my. Have you had that happen? It happens to me like 2 out of 3 times I have pucks.
I have had that happen before. I haven't had the Q-tip thing. I'm trying to remember what other trip was it that we flew out last year. Is there another one that I flew out for? I'm trying to think. Oh, it was coming back into Detroit, or something. They were checking me. I can't remember, but anyway, my bag went through. They checked it. There was the lady's like, "What you got in here?" I said, "Oh, it's just some hockey pucks." She's like, "Hockey pucks, huh?" And she pulled, and I left them like right on top. So like when the agent opens it up, they're like right there. And she's like,
Hmm.
looked at them, it was in the clear bag. I can't remember where exactly it was from, but she's like, "Oh, okay, you're good." But I've never had the whole Q-tip thing
Oh
happen, so
yeah,
that's
I think they're
that's a
testing
new
it for
one.
explosives. So,
Oh,
you know,
geez,
terrorists don't think you can get away with blowing up pucks.
yeah. And this to give you kind of a like a representation of what it was like upstairs when we went to the merch show. We'll kind of show you like the vastness of this one. Actually, that was the wrong clip. So that one I know was a quick clip, but they had where it was like Ottawa, Minnesota, Red Wings, and then the Maple Leafs, and that thing had to be at least what 150 feet long. That table, like
Yeah,
at
it was
least,
huge,
yeah, it
and
was, yeah, it was insane.
there's people swarming around it the entire game. I mean, we ran out there a couple times, like while the puck was in play, and it was busy out there, and I I guess just another nod to the acoustics of Avicii Arena is I, I th- I remember remarking to you when we were at the game just how quiet it was. Like, you could not hear anything happening in the bowl in the concourse. I don't know what they built that place with, but it is soundproof. So I mean, there I think we missed a goal at one point. We were in the
And we had no
concourse.
idea.
Yeah, normally you're in an arena, you're grabbing a beer, fries, using the restroom, and a goal scores. You hear the horn, you hear the crowd go crazy. Nothing. It is soundproof in there to the max. So,
Hmm.
shout out Swedish engineering, I guess.
Well, and if I go back in one of these other clips here, because I didn't really. It's a good thing you brought that up because I was going to bring that up later on in when we got to atmosphere. But if you can see here, some of the arenas that we've been to, like when you go through the tunnels, there's usually sometimes like a curtain or nothing at all. But all of these tunnels and like little entryways all had doors. So those doors made a big difference
Hmm.
in that because we stepped out for something and we're just walking through the concourse and it was so quiet. Like there were times where it's like you wouldn't even know that there was a hockey game happening just 50 to 100 yards from you, like down into the lower bowl there. So it would, yeah, like I think that also paying to that it's a big concert venue, and I think that does make a big difference being able to have that. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely interesting, and was not expecting that at all. All right, next up is the concessions. Now, Cody, I know we talked about it earlier. You had got some concessions, but you want to talk about the funny or interest, let's just say not funny, but the interesting smell that was through the arena, and it was, you want to talk about that?
Oh, I vaguely remember what you're talking about. Remind me. I actually don't like.
It was, remember, like we're walking through and it smelled like fish, and they
Oh,
had
that's
these
right. Yeah.
like pork rind style like fish flavored chip things. And I'm
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
regretting now that I didn't get any, but it definitely smelled interesting. Like it smelled like, I think it was more like a herring thing, but
I know that's a big
yeah,
thing over there. Is like canned fermented herring. That
yeah,
the take it or leave it kind of thing for most people, and I think most North Americans like to leave it. So
yeah, and we did leave it, but I think, did you get some? I didn't get anything from Avicii, but did you get anything from Avicii?
yes. So if you, what I guess this is actually a really interesting thing too. Is at least in North America, going to a sporting event, there's nothing. I don't know. It's just peas and carrots to be in the stands and have a beer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now it was interesting. I guess I didn't pay attention enough at some of the other arenas if this was the case, but at Avicii Arena, now they sold beer there. You could get beer and like mixed drinks in the concourse, but you had to drink them in the concourse in specific sections. And kind of the reason we, I guess, had to interact with that system is, I got in the day before, but I was still a little bit jet lagged. I wanted to make sure I had enough energy to get through this game. So I went to one of the concession stands in the picture. One back is where I bought it, but I picked up just a Monster Energy drink. And typical stadium, they won't give you the actual can, so they pulled out, a plastic glass and they poured it in there. And then, we were walking around the concourse during the intermission, and we cut through one of like the approved like alcoholic beverage areas. And we went to leave, and then a security guard stepped in and it was like, hey, you have to drink that here. And I'm like, oh, it's not a beer, it's just an energy drink. And that guy had to have been like 6'5" in a suit, bald, like
A big dude.
he looked like Hitman, honestly.
Yeah.
um and I was like, oh, it's just a monster, it's not a beer. And then he's like, well, do you mind if I smell it? And I'm like, sure. So he, like, I remember he grabbed my beer, I have a glass here, and he, you are good, my friend, and then just
Yeah.
gave it back to me and let us on our way. So I thought that was a funny little anecdote, and just interesting that you can have a beer there, but you can't enjoy it in the stands. So I
Yeah.
guess know that going in.
Yeah, yeah. That we weren't expecting that, because like when you're overseas and some big security guard comes up to you and wanting to know what you're drinking, and you're like, "Here you go, it's just an energy drink," and then he's like, "Yep, you're good." So and it was cool to actually see them enforcing that too, not just like saying, "Oh yeah, you have to do this," but people were actually checking people as
Yeah.
they were going through, and we didn't ask them to explain why, but we just wanted to be on our merry way. So. And then there was a few other like little restaurants. There was like a little Tex-Mex Mexican bar up there and a few other things. So I mean, there was a decent amount of stuff around, not like a ton, but I think it was okay. Prices seemed to be pretty fair for what you were getting. So ended up working out. All right. So all right, next up is the atmosphere. So this picture right here was actually taken from game 2. So this is actually from our seats, which these are the $45 seats, which I felt like for an NHL game in Sweden, I think this is the best valued ticket that we've ever had. For the
Hmm.
amount that we paid and the experience that we had for that game, like that was a really good game as well. So yeah, do you want to kind of touch on what you thought of the atmosphere, with it being, a mixture of, you had people from the 4 teams go to every single game,
Hmm.
and so like some of the, you saw tons of Minnesota Wild stuff at the Red Wings and Ottawa game, and then they were just all hanging out in town. But what did you think about the atmosphere, knowing that like you had the 4 different fan bases basically checking out every single game.
Yeah, so I've been to like I guess neutral site game I've been to a neutral site NFL game before, where it's kind of interesting where there's just fans. Even though it's these two teams playing, there's fans of all sorts of teams there. So there was some of that here, because it's one of 4 games that the NHL is going to play in Sweden, for this year, and who knows when they'll be back again. So even if you're, a Vancouver Canucks fan, this is your opportunity to go and see, the NHL stars, in your home country. There was a lot of, a lot of different jerseys. For a jersey, fan and enthusiast, it was fun to see. But there were a lot of the 4 teams that were there. I think they all brought a huge dose of fans, from their home markets, across the Atlantic to be there. So like Tyler said, night 1, Ottawa versus Detroit. Still a lot of Toronto fans there, a lot of Minnesota fans there, because they flew over there. They're just planning on watching all 4 games, or it might be that there's somebody who lives in Stockholm that they're the biggest William Nylander fan in the world, but they're still going to go and watch all 4 Global Series games, and so they're decked out in their Toronto gear, even though it's Detroit versus Ottawa. But it was pretty packed there. A lot of really passionate fans, a lot of really excited people, and especially I think they, like Tyler mentioned earlier, I think they picked teams that would do well with the Swedish fan base. So like the Red Wings, they have a lot of the top Swedish players, of the last 25 years have played in Detroit. Obviously, Toronto's got William Nylander, one of the top Swedish players right now. Ottawa's had Daniel Alfredsson and a few other big name Swedish players. Now Minnesota, I actually can't think of any, but there were still a lot of Minnesota fans there.
Yeah.
So it was a really great atmosphere. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a really good time, and just to kind of show you too, this is what it was like during play. Like this is when we stepped out, and you can see there too on the merch table there, like how long it was just from this angle, and it's like, yeah, the people were there to watch a hockey game, and it was awesome to see. Yeah, you had the occasional guy, he's up there getting a hot dog and whatnot, but yeah, it was cool to see that this was a unique hockey event that some people, it's a once in a lifetime thing, and it really showed when we were walking around the concourse. So I'm going to show you a clip here of what it was like in the arena. And this, I think, I'm not sure if this is during warm-ups or not, but yeah, we'll go to the next clip here. But yeah, so this is during warm-ups for game 1, and yeah, it was a little empty, but yeah, it filled right up just like that other photo. So yeah, this is
I think it's
this
good
was
to mention too that game 1 was on a Thursday night, and
that's true.
I think it started at 6 or 6:30 local time.
Yep.
So I think I'd read the stats of the 4 games. Night 1 was the least attended, and it was still packed there.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, like Tyler said, a lot of these fans, it might be their only opportunity to get to see the NHL in person. So they were definitely excited.
Yeah, and it was nice too, like when things kind of calmed down when we were walking around the concourse to kind of get some of these other photos, because you saw previously in some of the clips, there's people everywhere. So yeah, the also CCM had a few little skills things set up. It wasn't much, but it was kind of cool for the kids. So like those had really long lines during intermission. But yeah, it's kind of like a little fanfare type thing. And then you want to talk about some of these pictures you took, Cody, as you were kind of exploring the city a little bit before we showed up?
Yeah, so I mean, it was just walking around Stockholm while this was going on. It was pretty apparent the NHL was in town. They had obviously these banners, and all the street posts all around downtown, and then they had these big posters everywhere. Then once you got closer to the arena, they had these video boards. And then what I thought was really cool, especially having the opportunity to kind of spend a day exploring downtown Stockholm on my own before you guys got in. Everywhere you went, there were NHL fans. Like I said, a lot of folks flew across the Atlantic to come for these games. And so I remember walking around the old town, and you just see a huge wall of Minnesota fans come. And then you turn a corner, and there'd be a bunch of Toronto fans. And then, if you're wearing Red Wings gear, all the Red Wings fans would be like, "Oh, where are you from?" Oh, yeah. It was so. I mean, the whole time it was going on, all 4 nights, and even the day before, frankly, it was. Yeah, the atmosphere expanded beyond just the arena. There are NHL fans all over. People were excited.
Yeah, I think a lot of people over the course of those few days put a lot of their biases aside and be like, you know what, we're just all hockey fans. Let's just enjoy this event and being over in Sweden, because there was a lot of people from the US over there. So, this is a big deal for a lot of people. And like I said earlier, a once in a lifetime thing for them. So they wanted to make the best of it. And I'm glad that pretty much everybody was civil. And yeah, it was a great time for everybody, whether you attended one game or you attended all four. Like it was so much fun. And I know we've talked about the possibility of going to another one in the future. I think it is a high possibility. We don't have anything planned as of right now, but that is definitely something that we are going to look to in the future.
I know next year they're planning on doing Global Series games. I think they're preseason games. Unfortunately, these were
Okay.
regular season, but they're
Yep.
doing them in Germany, Czech Republic, and Finland. Now, I did like the setup of this one quite a bit, where it was like almost like a round robin tournament, where
Mhm.
every team came. There's 4 teams that came. They each played 2 games, all at the same arena. So it was like a 4-day event, which was really cool. Where what they're doing this year is like I think they're doing like one game in Germany, one game in Finland, one game in the Czech Republic. Then I think they're doing some exhibition games between like an NHL club and like a local the top tier local team in the area.
Mhm.
But so I think that'll be cool, but I really did like the setup of Sweden 2023 for the Global Series.
Yeah, it was. They definitely, the NHL did a very good job. And so that leads us into the puck score that we gave them. So 10 out of 10 for parking, 9 for tickets, 8 for merch, 7 for concessions, and a 10 for atmosphere, giving them an initial puck score of 44. And then going into the wow/X factor, I just thought, like what Cody said, it was well done and everything. So I think with that, they get an extra 3 points bonus, giving them a total puck score of 47. So yeah, that was yeah, you can't really say enough about the Global Series. If you ever, you ever get the chance to go on one of these trips, take it. You're not going to regret it. Whether your team is playing or whether your team is not playing, it's just really cool to be part of something that doesn't happen very often, and so many hockey fans that would love to go to it but don't have the opportunity to. So you get the chance, please take it, and yeah, you won't regret it. All right. So if you haven't already, you've been watching us for a while, make sure you head on over to Instagram. Check us out. Linktree there. Lots of different stuff. If you're getting ready for this season, the ultimate hockey map will become your best friend. So
Mm-hmm.
make sure to go over and use that. We still have some updates getting ready to drop on that and some new leagues overseas that are dropping on there. So be on the lookout for that. So it's been great. If you have made it this far, be the first person to comment Sweden and send it to us message it to us on Instagram, and you will receive this Score 1991 NHL hockey card pack, 15 cards, and it's the bilingual edition. So, and you get a chance to get some special Bobby Orr. There's also a chance to get a Bobby Orr autograph out of one of these packs. So, comment or message us on Instagram, Sweden. First person to do that, I'll get your information and we will ship it to you, whether you are in the US or you're outside the US. Doesn't matter where you're at. We will get this pack to you. So, oh man, Anything else you wanted to add, Cody, about the Global Series before we wrap things up for the night?
Oh, like I said, if you have the opportunity to go, or if you're just looking for just a little bit more of an excuse to travel abroad, take it. It was a great time. Historically they've done it in some really cool places. I think Sweden, Stockholm specifically, has hosted the most Global Series games of any city. I think they said it there. It's hosted the most NHL games of any city outside North America, which was cool. But they've done it even in the preseason last year. They did some games in Melbourne, Australia. Like you said, they're doing it in Finland, Germany, and the Czech Republic this year. I'm drawing a blank, but there's been some other really cool places that they've held games. Sometimes they're preseason, sometimes they're regular season. But they're really special events to go to. Um, I think we were joking at the draft a few weeks ago. So we heard, one guy, maybe it was a first date scenario. I don't know. He was chatting up to this girl and bragging about how he'd been to every sort of NHL event. And he's like, "Oh, I've been to the draft. I've been to the All-Star game. I've been
I
to
remember
the
that
Winter
guy.
Classic, the Stadium Series, yada yada." And we're like, this was like on the escalator too. So we're like getting further.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're like, we don't. He never said the Global Series. So I think it's a unique NHL event, that not a lot of people in North America maybe have been to. So take the opportunity if you get it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize what all it entails and the cost of everything, and it wasn't as bad as we thought. Like I talked about earlier, if you go over and listen to the Glass Bones Hockey Podcast recap of the whole entire trip, I talk about the breakdown of pretty much the whole trip, from our tickets to get there, the rooms that we stayed in, the tickets to all the games, and it really wasn't that bad. I think when it was all said and done, with everything, including food, the merch and stuff we bought, I think we were between $1,300 and $1,600 per person. Which, to kind of put that in perspective, some people traveling to Europe will spend at least $1,000 just to get there. So we did everything right, I feel, as far as planning ahead to go on this. We were watching the
Mhm.
flights left and right, and we bought when they were at the rock bottom price. So, guys, this is doable, and if you have the chance to, the opportunity to, do take it, because it is something that you are not going to regret. So, and so one last thing before I let you go, Cody,
Mhm.
is what are you looking forward to most going into next season? Now, last season was a pretty epic season with us going to the Global Series and Vostervik and everything. But what are you now looking forward to for us going into this next season?
Yeah, I know. We've got a really fun trip planned to go see ASU. It's crazy to think that's only in about a little over 6-7 weeks from now.
I know.
So that's exciting. I've told you before, I really want to get up to Utah, to see the Utah Hockey Club play this year. The last few new teams that have joined the league, you and I have been able to see them play in their inaugural season, both the Kraken and the Golden Knights.
Yep.
But both the Kraken and the Golden Knights, we saw them play on the road.
Yeah.
So in their inaugural season, we have since made the trip to Vegas to see them play in Vegas. But I think it would be really cool to see the Utah Hockey Club play in their inaugural season in Salt Lake City. Now, from what I've seen, ticket prices for those games are pretty high. So, hopefully, maybe we'll find a way to make it affordable. But they're excited for hockey there. As sad as I am to see the Coyotes go, I am excited for Salt Lake City to join the league. So that's those are two things I'm excited for, especially because the ASU trip, we've got that pretty well locked down. We're planning on going to that, and then
Yep.
Utah, I'm really excited to get up there. Hopefully we can get up to Seattle this year. I'd like to see the Kraken play. So we'll see. We'll be at an arena near you sooner than you know it.
Yeah. This we were kind of chatting earlier, and kind of also I was looking at the Ultimate Hockey Map at the same time. and it's just there's so many places to go, and it's gotten to the point where it's getting a little nerve-wracking because how do you pick and choose at this point? And because sometimes if you have one maybe on the list, you take it off, you might never put them back on the list to where you go and see them. So we're still going to have a video hopefully coming out here soon where we're going to talk about some of the goals and a little bit of last year recap where we actually ended up, because I know some of you guys are new to everything that we're doing. So we'll kind of go over where we've been up until this point and where we're looking to go to in the future. But yeah, after we've talked about this before, after we went to Sweden, it really opened up our eyes to looking at Puck My Life through a global lens. And so I am really excited to see where we're going to end up this season. I mean, we could just stay closer to our local areas, but we're going to still try to do a bunch of expanding out, as long as we can. So coming up here soon, we are going to be dropping some more details about a Patreon where you can go and support us through Puck My Life. And this will help with travel expenses. And also we're going to be giving back to you guys. We're going to be having some exclusive giveaways from hobby boxes, special packs, PSA cards, graded PSA cards, autograph cards, hockey jerseys, memorabilia, like rare pucks that you can only get at some of these local barns. So stay tuned. More of that information will be coming out here pretty soon, and we would appreciate any and all support that you can give Puck My Life in this adventure that we're going on, because this is not it's not cheap to do what we're doing. We are very savvy travelers, which helps out a ton. But still, at the end of the day, when you add up the expenses after the end of a season, it does creep up there. So anything that you guys can do to help us will be great. And then we will be giving back every step of the way. So, all right. Well, thank you, Cody, for being on tonight. The next one that we will do with Cody is Vostervik. That was an amazing night. I can't wait to talk about that
Great
one.
experience.
So great experience. The whole trip was great. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Always remember, here at Puck My Life, it's all for the love of hockey, and we will see you at the rink.